Taxes are a pain in everybody's side when it comes to retirement. Let's see if we can find some ways to reduce that. Now, you're going to hear every advisor talk about Roth conversions, and that is one. And it is the idea of, if you have all Roth money, check this out. You don't pay any taxes. That's great because it's going to be growing tax-free and then distributed to you tax-free as long as you abide by all of the clocks when it comes to having a Roth IRA for at least 5 years and the conversion clocks and all of those. But let's go a little bit deeper than that, and let's try to come up with some other strategies to talk through to really figure out what is going to be ways that you can retire with less tax. And so really a great one is a taxable or a brokerage account. If you haven't started one of these, sure, do the Roth first because it's going to allow you to retire and have that tax-free money. But if you have a brokerage account, this allows you to really bridge the gap oftentimes, especially if you're retiring before 59 and a half and you want to keep your income low. And so looking at this chart here, this explains that, yes, you must have a nice nest egg to be able to do something like this and to live off of the brokerage account until, let's say, you're 59 and a half years old. But qualified dividends. Now, I say qualified dividends because there's non-qualified dividends that are taxed at ordinary income tax rates. So you have to make sure the dividends you are receiving are qualified or actually long-term capital gains. Anything that you've held over 12 months considered a long-term capital gain when it comes to stock positions. So if you look here for unmarried individuals with taxable income, if you stay under $47,000, now I get it. That's a little bit of money. That's not a lot of money. But if you do that, that's going to allow you to pay 0% in taxes. For married individuals filing joint returns, $94,000. That's a lot higher of a threshold there that you could potentially pay zero tax while you're in the early retirement years or even in the later retirement years. Now, when you're doing this, though, you've really got to figure on, how this is all going to work. Because when I talk about long-term capital gains, well, you may be able to sell off a stock position that has $94,000 in gains, but maybe the stock position is $250,000 because you have a cost basis of, let's just say $100,000 is the gain and, $250,000 there, $150,000 is the cost basis. What you've got to figure out is your cost basis. So when you're selling a stock position off, it's not all going to be gains. You're going to have something that you already paid taxes on when you bought that position. And so that's a really sweet one there on really creating the idea here. Now, I'm going to throw a little bonus at you because this is something that clients are doing for us, with us. So what they're doing is they're retiring with a large brokerage account that they're able to live off of a little while, keep their taxable income ultra low, if not next to nothing. But then they say, hey, I want to make sure that I don't fall in the Medicaid gap. They want to avoid that. To each his own on how you're looking at that when it comes to the healthcare and insurance. They say, I want to make sure that I at least have affordable care, the ACA healthcare. But when they're doing that, the way they do that is they're actually spending down taxable money, keeping their income bracket at absolutely zero. But then what they're doing is they're saying, well, hey, I have all the way up to a $94,000 threshold here if I'm married. So then they start to do Roth conversions. Well, with the Roth conversions, they make sure that they're staying under this income threshold altogether. And if they do that, still again, keeping everything low, but providing them a little bit more money coming in so they're not falling under Medicaid. And then they go over and they go to affordable healthcare. So healthcare.gov is where you can find this. I put in an age 55 person, non-smoker. That could potentially, change things here. But then I put their income being, what did I have here? At $35,000 is their income. And so with that, they have a $711 per month estimate on a tax credit. So then you go over here and you start viewing the plans. And I am not a healthcare expert. I would encourage you to go talk to somebody here with this. But just to give you an idea, there are multiple plans on here, high deductible plans that have the ability for you to pay zero out of pocket every single month because you're getting that tax credit. Again, as long as you're keeping your healthcare expenses or your income low. It's a real catch with people when they retire because they're concerned of healthcare expenses. Now, if all you have is pre-tax money in a 401k, this strategy may not work for you. And you really have to start to brainstorm a bit and think outside the box to come up with some plans here. And so with that, and talking about, what your money is, you really need to know what your tax bracket is. So looking at your tax brackets and understanding tax brackets in the retirement years and figuring out, okay, well, 10%, $0 to $23,200 would be taxed at 10% if you're married filing jointly. Some people get really confused and they're looking at the tax brackets and they say, oh man, I have $100,000 in income. I'm going to pay 22% in taxes. No, it's tiered here. So you're going to pay 22% on anything over $94,300, but you're not going to pay 22% on all of that before. You're going to pay 12% on part of it, 10% on part of it. So making sure that you're understanding your brackets so that you can play the game, so that you can keep your taxes as low as possible in the retirement years. And then also with the taxes, you can't forget standard deductions, because what I just showed you was, 94,000 was the tax bracket starting into 22% for married filing jointly, but you do have a standard deduction that comes off of that when you're filing your taxes. So it's a really sweet spot there where you can say, hey, we're married filing jointly. We have 94,000 in income. Well, guess what? We get to take a standard deduction, almost $30,000, which would bring you to like 64,000 in shown income. So that's a great advantage for you. And I would always say to consult with a CPA when you're working on these tax strategies too, because if you're doing it on your own and you're just trying to run the numbers, you might miss something. And that's why I'm giving you this as just food for thought. And there's something that, I always tell people every time is leave a comment below, because what I'm talking about, you may think of something else that could help somebody that's watching. So make sure that if you have that, leave a comment below. And we've got the HSA hack with this as well. This is one of our favorites here at Jazz, helping clients. And so what we're doing is we're actually telling people, hey, if you can afford to pay your medical expenses out of pocket right this second, then keep the receipts. Then later on, you can actually reimburse yourself. What's really neat is you allow your tax-free HSA account to grow and compound. So let's just say that you put in $40,000 into your HSA and you've got $60,000 in medical expenses. Well, if you let your HSA continue to grow and compound tax-free, eventually, if you have $60,000 in receipts, you could actually reimburse yourself for all of that. Now, that's a lot of money to pay out of pocket. And maybe I'm going a little bit farther on this than I need to, but I think you get the point of what I'm talking about here is allowing you to, play the game a little bit with this HSA so that later on in the retirement years, if you're reimbursing yourself when you're trying to keep your income low, this is tax-free income going back to you as a reimbursement. And then finally, Social Security tax. Social Security is one that you eventually step into in the retirement years, and just understanding how it works. Because if your income is extremely low and not showing very much, you're not going to have any tax on it. But then eventually, if you creep up and you're a single filer and you're $25,000 to $34,000, you're going to have 50% of your benefit income is taxable. And then same over here, $32,000 to $44,000 for married filing jointly. And then finally, 85% of the benefit income is going to be taxable over $34,000 for a single filer and over $44,000 for married filing jointly. So these are all things that you really want to figure out. But like I say, let me know in the comments if you can think of something else that may be of help to others that are watching.